Terraria is honestly quite boring. I mean, a man can only beat Eye of Cthulhu so many times, dig so many elevators, poorly crop so many sexy images of Queen Bee and Empress of Light for clickbait thumbnails before it all just becomes kind of repetitive. I think the first time you beat the final boss and set down the controller, filled with so much joy at what you've accomplished, something deep inside of you dies. Passion that can never truly be rekindled once the credits roll. Lucky for me, I've never actually been good enough to beat the game, so L plus Bozo plus rip everyone else. My goal was simple: to survive, and maybe even thrive. 100 days in a Terraria world where every NPC was a worm. This is my story, my journey, my midlife crisis. So sit tight and get ready for Day 1. I made a new character and jumped straight into the new world. The first thing I noticed was the guy looked less like the kind of human centipede abomination I was expecting. Instead, he looked more like a kind of stock white man photo I would use as a reaction image, just downloaded off of a flip phone and really zoomed in. This clearly was not 100 days in a Terraria world where every NPC was a worm. I went to get some wood when I noticed that Terraria actually added achievements. I hope this won't be relevant in 2 minutes. And I think it's 14. I'm kind of just eyeballing it on the timeline, so I might be off a little bit. Yeah. So, how was your day? Seconds. While I was recording that voiceover for the joke, a bird spawned from a tree. And then a bird spawned from that bird. So, either the mod is working, or I have to risk making my video inaccessible to 80% of Terraria fans by making a sex joke, officially making this channel PG-13. Now that I knew my game was on the clock, I put my head down to the grindstone and decided to spend my time as wisely as possible. My first real goal was to kill Eye of Cthulhu, a floating boss which spawns smaller versions of itself and then charges during Phase 2. For that to be possible, I would need a couple things, namely, an arena, a weapon which could pierce a worm, good armor, and a lot of health along with that, as well as an attention span long enough to remember that list. There were a lot of ways I could approach these goals, but eventually I just decided to spend the day exploring the surface and killing every small animal I could find. At first I told myself this was just because I wanted to experiment with how the mod worked, but after watching the footage back, I'm starting to realize I probably shouldn't be trusted with sharp objects. In all seriousness, I learned a lot about how the mod worked. Both the length and size of the NPC chain were random, and while the length generally wasn't an issue, the size had some weird properties. Let me explain. Larger NPCs had significantly more health and defense than normal, making even a worm a tough kill. Meanwhile, smaller enemies were harder to hit, sure, but died faster than my chances at this video being successful after I just made fun of Terraria fans 252 words ago. I learned a couple of other things, but I'll save that bit for later. In the meantime, the night of the first day was rapidly approaching and only 20 minutes away, and so I decided to head underground. I needed ores anyway to make armor and weapons, so I didn't think much of it. Digging was taking forever, until it didn't, and then I found some gay-looking slimes. To be clear, I mean gay, positive, because I thought they were rainbow colored, and I think that's cool because I have nothing but love for the LGBT community. I dug out a little corner to kill them, but the big slime escaped and attacked me. That's gay. Derogatory. I kept digging until I found this weird boulder. I figured I could use the active stone blocks to build something cool later, kind of just ignoring the trap because who'd be dumb enough to set it off anyways? It is not too late to refund you, game. At this point, I was starting to regret my choice in video topic. I mean, going into this challenge, I knew the first night would be hard, but this was brutal. I quickly learned that size didn't just increase defense massively, but damage as well. Plus, even though I said length doesn't matter, we all know that's just a lie I tell myself to feel better at night. Specifically the first night of this challenge. Even when I could outmaneuver the hordes of zombies, there were times when I just got caught in, snagged by, or even respawned inside the chain and instantly died, making these larger enemies some of the hardest I've ever fought when they decided to work. I mean, the only way I was able to survive at all was by hiding in a cave, which was relatively safe until it wasn't. But hey, at least I got a boomerang out of it. Day 2. My goal for this morning was to get a real weapon, like a gold sword, or the Soul of Eternity if these zombies kept testing my patience. I don't know much about what weapons would be best against a worm, and so I decided to make the decision to go back underground, but that didn't exactly work out well, so I spent the rest of the day punching trees in real life. I don't like this joke anymore. Using all the wood I had now, I decided to make a base. For now, I only needed 3 things. A crafting bench, a furnace, and a candelabra. I haven't figured out what that last thing does yet, but it sounded funny, and I'm sure I'll come up with an instrumental use for it. Something completely game-changing. I'm telling you now, guys, this is gonna work. It's gonna be relevant in...
No.
Minutes. And
it didn't work.
Seconds. Yay! Dealing with the night was a nightmare, because I forgot that to make a house you need a door, and a ceiling, and walls. What's most annoying are the really tiny flying enemies. They're just like people who play Terraria on mobile. They can't do anything to hurt me, but their existence just annoys me. Day 3 finally arrived, and my spirits were almost crushed. I still had no new weapons, my arena was taking forever to build, and the cashier at Starbucks was practically begging me to leave because the sheer amount of viruses I caught while looking up Terraria sexy for this video practically turned my computer into a walking zip bomb. Despite all that, I was doing this for a reason, for a grander purpose. I was doing this for the community, because y'all seriously have gotten weird since I made my last video. Exposition aside, let's cue the title card. Day 3. I went back to mining in the morning and managed to come up at night because I hate myself apparently. Nothing interesting had happened in a while and I was starting to get bored, so I decided to see just how close I was to beating Eye of Cthulhu. I'd say it's about the distance between mine and PewDiePie's sub count. Since the distance was so massive, I decided to start looking up to the sky by building an arena. I was dreading this because it always takes me forever to make even a straight line, and hundreds of platforms meant that I had to spend most of the third day just trying to build this small section. I finished early, and by finished I mean got bored, and wanted to try out some parkour. Trouble is, I had to wait until nightfall to summon the eye, and that was still a while away. There were a ton of things I still needed to do. Look for life crystals, actually make armor, upgrade my weapons. I decided to ask my dad what he thought I should do first, and he told me to stop posting weird content online and get a real job. Anyway, I made a snail room. The snails did not help. I thought the range of the boomerang would be enough by itself, but the low damage was looking rough. What I soon realized, however, is that even if the boomerang comes back after only hitting once, it hits multiple times on the way back. By aiming for the tail end of Cthulhu, I could rack up hundreds of damage in a single hit, depending on the angle of the throw and the position of the enemy. This strategy was just enough to barely get me in the phase 2, at which point I was immediately skewered. My issue was clear. I needed a big arena. Anyway, I tried 2 more times because I was too lazy to build a big arena, but eventually I gave in. As much as I wanted to just keep throwing myself at the problem, eventually daylight came and it was officially day 4. I maxed out my hearts, found an enchanted sword, and accidentally left the game running on my computer overnight, nearly guaranteeing I'll be making more Terraria videos because now I can't get a refund. This is the story of the most climactic day. Day 97. So basically, to summarize, I just spent like 10 hours standing in the same place. Not the worst use of time, I'd say. I braced myself for a long fight as I summoned the eye once more. I wanted to open the fight by getting close with my sword, but he charged to return the favor. That was when I noticed I was taking like no damage and... Wait, that's it? That was so anticlimactic. Well, I mean, I guess I still have 3 days left, so, I went to fight Skeletor one-on-one and... Oh. Damn, that was easy too. But what's left then? What other bosses are there? Wall of Flesh! If you want to keep this series going, make sure this video hits 100 likes, and in the meantime, check out another one of my videos, like this one right here, where I somehow end up discussing the ethics of child slavery and child labor within 10 minutes. With that, I'll see all you dudes next time.